What's up, YouTube? KT here again. Well, I spent all day yesterday getting this sanded down, getting these holes welded up on the side. Got that knocked down a little bit there, but don't want to take it down too far and open up some more holes. I got one, looks like maybe one more pinhole right there. Damn it. But once I got tired of, and then also right here, here, all of this right here, and a spot over here. Yep, I got a spot in the front right there. God dang it. Anyhow, it's I'm kind of worried about it. As much time as I've spent on all of these holes, I'm wondering what's going on the inside. I know I've got a hole down there, so it kind of makes me wonder what's going on the inside. And what I'm thinking about doing is getting some Pour 15 and just pouring it, but just pouring it in the inside here and kind of turn the hood on its nose, and then on one side and on the other side, you know, each time rotating it around to try to get that Pour 15 down in here. Yeah, see, there's another spot right there. I haven't even looked at this side yet, so I got another spot right here. Now, I'm not doing a show car, but I don't want to go to the trouble of paint this hood and then, you know, a year or two later start having these little rust holes pop up on the edges. So thinking in a couple hours I'll be able to put some epoxy on this thing. By the way, I think in my last video I had a little safety message going, and here's another tip for you. Something big and unwieldy or awkward like this, get help when you get ready to move it off of your sawhorses. I was out here doing it last night and got ready to lift it up. Well, I thought I could lift it up high enough, and I could have if I hadn't banged it on the garage door here, because I was going to lift it and kind of lay it forward. Lift it and lay it forward, and when I lifted it up, I hit the garage door and kind of took me off balance. So the first thing that happened is I started to kind of lean forward that way and drop the hood on that toe right there, the big toe. And my wife thinks it's broken. I don't think it's broken, but I did have to get the drill bit after this morning and drill a hole in the top of it to relieve the pressure, because it was killing me all night. And now that I've got the pressure relieved off of it, it's much better. Check back in with you guys in a little bit. Bye. Alright, everybody, I wanted to show you what I got going on the other side of the hood. As I suspected, this is the side of the hood that I hadn't checked yet. When I started taking the paint down and getting down to bare metal, I started hitting spots like this. You know, I'd showed you those already on the front side, and here I am on the driver's side. The hood goes that way. Does this be the driver's side? So this is before this was solid holes. So what I found is I'm putting my, up here at the top of the metal, I'm starting my wire out up here until I get some good ground, get some good footing and some good metal to stick to, and then I'll start to lead it around. There we go. Then I'll start to lead it around both sides until I get some good meat over here. And I kept blowing holes in it, which is telling me that the metal was too thin. Kept blowing holes in it until I got some good ground, some good footing, and then sort of followed it down to the bottom. I did that on all of these over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started up here on the top, burn this back, because as soon as I touch this, it's going to blow this wide open. So I'm going to get up here and get some good footing, and then start working my way around each side of the hole until I burn away all the thin stuff, and then I'll start working my way down until I burn the thin stuff away down here, and then I'll be able to close the hole up there. So I'm going to do some step by step. So this is going to be the first one. I'm going to grab the top up here and sort of work my way around both sides. Alright, stand by. Okay, so remember, my hole was down here in the bottom, just like this one. My hole was in the bottom. But what I've done is I've come up here and laid some material down up on the top to grab up on the overhead part of the hole right there, and went down on the left side, or the right side, and went down on the left side. Now I'm going to follow the hole around this way, because as soon as I touch it here, it's going to blow a hole in it. And I'll see if I can't build it up farther down here. Now the whole time what I'm trying to do is get enough material so I can make this angle in the back. So even though you can't see it, this is pretty thick on the bottom and the back here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this around the front and close this hole. And if I stop somewhere in the middle, I'll stop and take a picture, or I'll just show you the end result. Alright, stand by. Well, there it is. Luckily, the metal on the bottom wasn't very thin. You can see where I started at the top, went around to the right side, came back around to the left side, and when I started to close that hole across the bottom, it took to the metal real well and didn't blow any holes in it, which tells me that the metal was thick enough to take a weld. I've got this one more little hole right here that I'm going to do. I can't tell you one thing that I did learn on this side when I started doing this over here is over there on the other side, on the other welds that I did, I left a little bit of paint on the metal, and the cleaner the metal, especially like on these little buttons in the front, in the face right here, those went real well as far as the welds go. They filled in real nice, and they're nice and flush, so it means I've got some good penetration on those as well. But on the other side, I left a little bit of the paint, and before I start, well, I've got this one knocked down pretty good too. There's not much paint on that one, not around the hole anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. But just that little bit of paint up on the top right there, once you hear your torch start to pop and spatter, it means trying to burn that paint out of the way, and you're going to end up with you know, even more holes blown in it, or you end up gobbing your metal on. So make sure that whatever you're working on, especially when it comes to thin sheet metal, that all the impurities, get as much of the paint off and get as much as raw steel as you can, and that's going to help, especially with the thinner metals like this. So that's it for now. I'm going to get this last hole here patched or plugged or closed up, and then I'll come back, grind it all down, brush it, sand it, and show you the finished product. Okay, here we have the finished product. I've got some voids in there. There's a few voids, but they're mostly where spots where where my welding wire didn't fill very good. So I'm not too worried about them, because I got the sheet metal taken care of. And here's those last two spots where I showed the last example. Those filled in nicely. Again, I built up the metal in the back. I'd love to be able to put my contour back in there on when I get ready to grind that angle back in. And got the face sanded down here. It's not perfect. I'm not worried about anybody seeing this. As a matter of fact, you know, if anybody says anything, I'll explain to them this is the level of detail that I went to when I did the rust repair on this car, at least on the hood. But that's it. Get ready to get this thing out in the driveway and do the vinegar water and stop the rust. At least I'm going to do the top side and then let it flash over, put another coating on it, or do the rust stuff, bring it back in here, spray it, let it flash over, put another coat on it, and then let it sit for a couple of hours. I still got plenty of time today left to do this. Let it sit for a couple of hours, bring it back in, throw it upside down, and then paint the inside. So I do believe that at least I'm going to have the hood done this weekend. So I'll check back in. Adios. One more thing I was going to show you. I've been doing. This is my. I've got a Hobart Handler 190. I've had the power set on the lowest setting, the lowest step 1, and then my wire feed's been set at 30. And I believe, let's see what my gauge is set up. My gauge is at 25 static, and I think it drops to about 23. Let's see. No, my gauge is at 30 static. 30 static, and it drops to about 25 when I start welding. So maybe a little bit high. Probably turn that down to about 23. So that's my power settings, wire feed speed, and C25 settings, in case anybody was wondering. Ooh, well, sorry about that. That was when zoom way in. All right, we'll check back in. Adios.